I never imagined the reading of a will could feel like stepping into another life. Yet that was exactly how it felt on the day I learned what my aunt had left behind for me. The old lawyer's office smelled of paper and lemon polish, the kind of scent that clings to memories more than rooms. I sat across from Mr. Hale, a thin man whose round glasses made him look permanently startled, and tried not to fidget. My Aunt, Helena, had been gone for 3 weeks, but the loss hadn't settled yet. It hovered around me like a fog that refused to lift. "She left a message for you," he said, sliding a sealed envelope toward me with a reverence I didn't fully understand. Specifically addressed and very personal. My fingers hesitated before touching it. I knew my aunt had always seen something in me I didn't quite see in myself, some hidden softness, some identity she believed I wasn't ready to face. She never pushed, but she watched me the way someone watches the sky before a storm. Quietly, expectantly. Inside the envelope was a letter written in her elegant handwriting, the loops graceful, the ink slightly smudged at the edges as if she had written it through tears. "My dear child, if you're reading this, then my voice has already left the world. But my hope has not. You must honor one last wish for me, one I believe will free you, though it may unsettle you first." My breath tightened. I kept reading. "For 1 year, you must live as the person I always knew lived inside you. The person you hid, even from yourself. I have arranged everything. A house, funds, and a school enrollment, the one place I believe your truth will bloom." "School?" My eyebrows twitched. "What school enrolls someone through a will? There is a uniform and a role you must accept completely. You may hate me for it at first, but one day, I believe you'll thank me. One day, you will understand why I chose this path for you. Why I saw what you couldn't bear to admit." My heart thumped painfully. Live this year as her. Not him. As the version of you who deserves to breathe, to exist without shame. "I know the world you enter will challenge you, but you will not be alone. Not truly. Everything has been prepared. Just step through the door. With love that follows you always. Aunt Helena." I stared at the letter, feeling weightless and heavy at the same time. Her? Me? A year? A uniform? It sounded surreal, like something out of The Secret Life she always hinted at but never fully explained. Mr. Hale cleared his throat softly. "Your aunt was particular about her arrangements. You are legally obligated to fulfill the terms of her will to receive the rest of your inheritance." "What happens if I don't?" I murmured. "The estate goes elsewhere. And you lose the house." The house. The one place that had felt like home since childhood. She knew I wouldn't let that slip away. Maybe she counted on it. Maybe she knew me too well. The letter trembled slightly in my hand. Live 1 year, as the person she believed I truly was. I hadn't even considered the possibility. Never let it cross my mind long enough to form into thought. But my aunt, she always noticed the things I didn't say, the things I hid behind nervous laughter or long sleeves or quiet silences. When I left the office, the world outside looked the same, but I felt different, as if a thread inside me had been tugged loose. The air tasted sharper. My steps felt unsure. My future had shifted without my consent. The house her letter mentioned was waiting for me. Her house, now mine, but stepping inside felt like crossing a line between before and after. Everything was exactly as she had left it. The floral scent of her candles, the soft ticking of the antique clock, the framed photos of vacations where she held my shoulders gently, almost protectively, every time. A second envelope sat on the table. White. Crisp. My name written in her handwriting again. Inside was a single line. "Your new school awaits. The orientation is tomorrow. The skirt is part of the uniform. Don't be afraid of what it awakens." My mouth dried. Skirt. School. Orientation. My aunt wanted me to live as someone else, someone she believed I already was beneath everything I pretended to be. I walked upstairs to the bedroom she said was mine. The closet door was slightly open. I reached for the knob with a slow, hesitant hand and pulled it wide. Inside hung the uniform of the school she enrolled me in. A blouse. A pleated skirt. A blazer with soft, feminine lines. knee-high socks, Mary Jane shoes. I stared at them in a daze, feeling the cold swirl of fear and something else, something quiet, fragile, almost like recognition. My reflection in the mirror looked back at me, eyes wide, pulse jumping at my throat. "A year," I whispered. "A whole year dressed like this, a living like this?" But the thought didn't feel wrong. Terrifying, yes. Overwhelming, absolutely. But wrong? I wasn't sure anymore. The house felt like it was holding its breath around me, as if waiting for me to take the first step into a future I didn't yet understand. I touched the skirt lightly, brushing the fabric between my fingers. A shiver ran through me, not entirely unpleasant. My aunt believed this was who I truly was. And tomorrow, the world would begin to find out. Morning came too quickly. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my aunt's handwriting, the soft swirl of a skirt, the reflection in the mirror that felt both familiar and foreign. When the alarm rang, I lay still for a long moment, listening to the quiet heartbeat of the house. This was the day. Orientation. My first real step into the life she designed for me. A life I hadn't chosen, but couldn't walk away from without abandoning her final wish. I got out of bed slowly, almost mechanically, as if my body was moving ahead of my mind. The uniform hung from the closet door like a silent dare. The skirt swayed faintly in the morning draft, as though calling me forward. I took a deep breath. Just 1 year, I told myself. It's only a year. But something deep inside whispered otherwise. What if it becomes more? I pushed the thought away. Putting on the uniform took longer than it should have. My hands shook as I buttoned the blouse, as I slid my legs into the knee-high socks, as I stepped into the shoes that made a soft click against the wooden floor. The skirt felt strange at first, light, airy, delicate. It moved when I moved, brushing against my thighs like an unfamiliar touch. When I looked in the mirror again, I froze. The person looking back wasn't exactly a girl, but she wasn't the boy I'd always pretended to be either. My features softened against the feminine lines of the clothing. My posture shifted automatically, subtly, like my body remembered something I didn't consciously know. I didn't hate it. That scared me most. The school my aunt enrolled me in, Ravensbridge Academy, was only a short bus ride away, but every second felt like an eternity. I kept tugging at the hem of the skirt, glancing around nervously, expecting judgment or stares. But the bus was filled with students wearing the same uniform. Girls chatting, laughing, brushing their hair out of their faces. Not a single person looked twice at me, though that somehow made it worse. When we reached the school gates, my breath caught. Ravensbridge Academy looked nothing like the schools I grew up attending. It had tall iron gates, old stone buildings, and long pathways lined with cherry blossoms. It felt more like a place of ancient promises than algebra quizzes. I walked toward the main hall, trying to blend into the river of students. A few girls glanced at me, not with confusion or judgment, but with simple curiosity. One of them, a short girl with soft brown curls, smiled as she approached. "First day?" she asked. Her voice was light, friendly. "Why, yeah," I said, forcing my voice into a higher, softer tone without thinking. "You look nervous," she giggled. "Don't worry. Ravensbridge seems intimidating at first, but the community is really supportive. I'm Liana." Her easy confidence made me relax slightly. The name caught in my throat. My real name suddenly felt too heavy, too sharp, too out of place in this world. I cleared my throat. I'm Elise. The name slipped out before I even chose it. It felt right. Too right. Liana's smile widened. "Pretty name. Come on, we're supposed to head to the auditorium for orientation." I followed her through the hallways, every step making the skirt sway softly, a constant reminder of where I was and who I was supposed to be. Inside the auditorium, students filled rows of seats while the headmistress, a tall woman with silver hair pulled into a neat bun, stood at the podium. "Welcome to Ravensbridge Academy," she began. Her voice echoed with authority and warmth. "This institution is dedicated to excellence, growth, and self-discovery. Many of you come here seeking knowledge, others seeking yourselves. The words hit me harder than they should have. She continued, while our academy has a long-standing tradition of a feminine uniform, we welcome students from all identities who are willing to embrace our values and take on the challenge of transformation, whether academic, personal, or spiritual. Transformation. The word lingered in my mind. I wasn't sure if the headmistress knew what my aunt had arranged, or if everyone here was part of some larger mystery I didn't understand yet. But the way she looked across the room, her eyes paused on me briefly, as if she recognized something, as if she knew. When orientation ended, Liana turned to me. Hey, Elise, want to sit with us at lunch? You shouldn't spend your first day alone. Elise. She said it so naturally, like it belonged to me. Sure, I replied, surprised by how easily the name settled into my heartbeat. At lunch, I met two more girls, Marin and Tessa, both welcoming, both incredibly curious about me, but never in a cruel or prying way. Their questions were gentle. What's your favorite subject? Where did you move from? Do you like Ravensbridge so far? Not one of them asked about my birth gender. Not one of them looked at me like I didn't belong. Not one of them questioned my skirt. It was unsettling how normal everything felt, how right it felt. After classes ended, Liana walked with me toward the bus stop. You fit in really well, she said, adjusting her backpack. I hope you like it here. I opened my mouth to respond, but the bus arrived, its doors hissing open. I stepped inside, turning back to see Liana waving at me. The gesture warmed something inside me that I didn't know needed warmth. As the bus pulled away, I glanced down at my skirt again. The challenge had only begun, but I already felt the first tremor of change deep within. When I reached my aunt's house, I stood in the hallway for a long time, staring at the framed photographs of her smiling face. Aunt Helena, I whispered, what exactly did you see in me? There was no answer, only the quiet hum of the house, patient and knowing. But as I changed out of the uniform, folding the skirt neatly over the chair, I realized something unsettling. I didn't want to take it off. The next morning, slipping into the uniform felt different, not as terrifying, not as strange. The blouse's soft fabric brushed my skin with a familiarity that startled me. The skirt settled around my hips as if it already knew my shape, even if I didn't. I told myself it was just part of the deal, part of honoring my aunt's final wish, but something in me lingered on the feeling of the clothes, the weight, the lightness, the subtle shift in how I stood and breathed. The bus ride felt easier too. I caught my reflection in the bus window, hair slightly neater, posture softer, and I didn't immediately look away. I didn't recognize this version of myself, but I didn't recoil from them either. At Ravensbridge, the cherry blossoms seemed brighter, as though the world itself had softened its edges. Liana spotted me the moment I entered the courtyard. She waved enthusiastically and jogged over. Elise. Over here. The name still made my heart jolt, but not out of discomfort, more out of disbelief that someone was calling me that, and that I responded so naturally. You look more comfortable today, she said with a grin. Do I? My voice came out quieter, lighter. Yesterday, you were walking like you were on a tightrope. She giggled and nudged me playfully. Now you look like a normal human. I rolled my eyes, trying not to smile, but the warmth in her teasing settled into me like sunlight. Being around her made the fear in my chest untangle a little more. Morning classes passed quickly. English literature, then mathematics, then a class called personal development that seemed unusual. The teacher, a woman named Ms. Rowan, had sharp eyes that seemed to see more than anyone else's. For this course, she began, you will reflect on identity, how it forms, how it shifts, and how we discover truths we hide even from ourselves. My pulse quickened. Identity. Shifts. Truths we hide. Why did everything in this school feel like an echo of my aunt's intentions? Ms. Rowan handed each of us a small notebook with soft lavender covers. Write in this every day. It will help you understand who you are becoming. Becoming? I looked down at the notebook, tracing the embossed vines on the cover. That word followed me through the next classes, through lunch, through the slow walk down the hallway where sunlight painted patterns on the floor. Becoming. After lunch, Liana pulled me aside. Want to come to the style club meeting after school? It's super chill. We talk fashion, try outfits, give each other tips. You don't have to do anything big. Just hang out. Fashion? Trying outfits?
Me?
I almost said no, I really did. But then I saw the hope in her eyes, the easy acceptance she always offered without expecting anything in return. Okay, I said softly. I'll come. Her face lit up, and something fluttered in my stomach. After classes ended, we headed to a bright room filled with mirrors, fabrics, clothes racks, and students chatting excitedly. I hovered near the doorway, unsure if I belonged here, when Marin spotted me.
Elise.
Come in. She grabbed my hand and pulled me inside before I could protest. One of the club leaders, a tall girl named Nira, greeted me with a warm smile. First time? Don't worry. We don't force anyone into anything. But if you want to experiment, explore, or just observe, this is the place. I nodded nervously. I'll observe for now. But as I watched the others try on outfits, skirts, blouses, accessories, subtle makeup touches, I felt something stirring inside. A quiet curiosity. A sense of possibility. Liana nudged me gently. You can try something if you want. No pressure. But you'd look really cute with a softer hairstyle. Maybe a ribbon. My cheeks warmed.
Cute?
She thought I would look cute? Before I knew it, she was behind me, gathering a small ribbon from the table. Here, let me try something. I sat still as her fingers moved through my hair, careful, gentle, almost reverent. There, she said, stepping aside. Look. I turned toward the mirror. And froze. The person staring back looked unmistakably more like a girl than the day before. Not fully transformed, not dramatically different, just subtly changed.
Softer.
Warmer. More aligned with the name Elise. My breath caught. Wow, I whispered. You like it? Liana asked. I didn't know what to say. But my eyes softened. And my chest tightened with something that felt dangerously close to longing. Yes, I admitted. I really, really do. The meeting continued, filled with laughter and bursts of excitement as the girls shared ideas, tips, and encouragement. But for me, everything blurred except the image of that ribbon in my hair and the way it made me feel, like a door inside me had opened slightly, revealing a room I had pretended didn't exist. When I got home, I didn't take the ribbon out. I let it stay. I ate dinner in it, studied in it, even brushed my teeth with it still tied in place. Only when I changed for bed did I carefully untie it and place it on my nightstand, staring at the small piece of fabric as though it held the answer to a question I hadn't dared to ask. Before sleeping, I opened the lavender notebook from personal development class and wrote my first entry. I'm scared of how right this feels. The next morning, I found myself reaching for the ribbon again. Not because I needed to, because I wanted to. And wanting, that was new. That was dangerous. That was real. By the end of the first week, the uniform no longer felt like a costume. It felt like a language my body had secretly known but never spoken aloud. Every morning, as I tied the ribbon in my hair, I felt a small but undeniable shift, like a truth slowly unclenching, blooming quietly inside my chest. But the real awakening didn't happen in the classroom or the clubs. It happened in the moments I least expected, moments where my heart reacted before my mind did. It began with Liana. She sat next to me in nearly every class now, nudging my shoulder when I drifted off, smiling when I got an answer right, whispering jokes that made it impossible not to laugh. Her presence wrapped around me like warmth on a cold day, subtle but impossible to ignore. And every time she said my name, Elise, it felt like my heartbeat reshaped itself. One afternoon, during lunch, she tugged gently at my ribbon. You wear it every day now, she said, eyes gleaming with approval. It suits you. Makes you look softer.
Softer.
The word should have embarrassed me. Instead, I felt something flutter inside. Do you like looking softer? She asked, head tilted. My lips parted, then closed. I didn't know how to explain it.
Did I?
Did I like the person I was becoming?
I
think so, I whispered. She smiled. Not teasingly, not mockingly,
warmly, gently.
like she understood something even I couldn't fully grasp yet. Good, she murmured, because it suits you more than you know. Her words echoed long after lunch was over. That same day, in personal development class, Ms. Rowan gave us a new prompt in our lavender journals. Write about a moment when you felt most yourself this week. I stared at the page for a long time. The pen felt heavy in my hand. Most myself. What did that even mean anymore? After several minutes, my hand began moving on its own. It was when Liana tied the ribbon in my hair. Because, for a moment, I wasn't pretending. I wasn't hiding. I was just me. Seeing the words on the page made my breath catch. I slammed the journal shut, heart racing, afraid someone might see. But Ms. Rowan glanced at me from her desk, her eyes soft, knowing. Almost too knowing. Later, after school, Liana invited me to study with her and the others in the library. As we spread our books across the table, she kept glancing at me, smiling in a way that made my stomach do strange things. At one point, her hand brushed mine. Only for a second. A tiny moment. Barely a touch. But the spark that shot through me stole my breath. I looked at her hand. Then at mine. Then at her face. Was that normal? Was I imagining it? Did she feel anything? My thoughts spun wildly. This wasn't part of my aunt's plan, was it? Or was it exactly what she expected would happen? Everything okay, Elise? Liana whispered. I nodded too quickly. Why, yes. I'm fine.
But I wasn't fine.
Because something inside me was changing, faster than I could process, deeper than I could control. That night at home, I walked into my aunt's old study. The room smelled faintly of lavender and old books. Her chair sat tucked under the desk, angled slightly, just how she left it. On impulse, I sat in it, imagining her beside me, imagining her voice, imagining the way she always looked at me, not with judgment, but with a kind of sad understanding. Aunt Helena, I whispered, staring at the shadows in the room. What did you see in me that I couldn't see? Why did you think this life was who I really was? Silence. But not an empty one. A knowing one. My heart thudded painfully. Because the answer wasn't in the room. It was in me. Growing stronger every day, like a tide rising slowly, but relentlessly. I stood and walked to the mirror in the hallway. Still wearing my uniform. Still with the ribbon in my hair. I studied my reflection. Not just the clothes, but the way my eyes softened, the way my posture shifted, the way my face seemed to settle naturally into the identity I once thought impossible. Then I whispered the truth I'd been afraid to admit, even to myself. I feel more like Elise than I ever felt like him. Saying it aloud made my legs weak, made my chest tighten with a strange mix of joy and terror. It felt like stepping off a cliff in the dark and discovering wings I didn't know I had. I leaned closer to the mirror. Who am I becoming? But deep down, I already knew. The awakening wasn't just emotional. It was identity.
Possibility. Truth.
It was the realization that my aunt hadn't forced something onto me. She had unlocked something already waiting. And tomorrow, when I stepped into the school again, when Liana smiled at me, when I wore the ribbon, when I breathed as Elise, I knew the transformation wasn't just happening around me. It was happening within me. Slowly.
Softly.
Inevitably. By the time the second month of school arrived, I stopped counting the days on the calendar. At first, I crossed off each one like a prisoner waiting for release. 1 year, just 1 year, I kept reminding myself. But lately, I forgot to mark them at all. Life as Elise wasn't something I was enduring. It was something I was settling into. Something that felt less like a disguise and more like a second skin. Still, the shift frightened me in quiet ways. Late at night, I would lie awake staring at the ceiling, replaying moments I didn't know how to understand. Moments when my heart reacted differently than it ever had before. Moments with Liana. But everything changed the day Ravensbridge held its annual Expression Showcase, a school-wide event where students presented creative work, fashion, art, music, performance, anything that expressed their authentic selves. Of course, I had no intention of participating. I planned to sit in the back with the lights low, blending into the crowd. But fate, like my aunt's mysterious intentions, had other plans. When I arrived at school that morning, I sensed a strange buzz in the air. Students held garment bags, musical instruments, sketchbooks. Liana found me almost immediately. Elise. She grabbed my hand. You're coming to the club room, right? The club? I blinked. I thought we were just watching the showcase. She shook her head, smiling brightly. Nope. Today's the day we present our project. Remember? I stared at her, horrified. What project? I never signed up for anything. You did, she said gently, without realizing it. Before I could protest, she dragged me toward the style club room. As soon as we entered, the girls swarmed around me like a warm, eager storm. Mirrors lined the walls, soft music played from a speaker, and fabrics were laid out like a rainbow of possibilities. Elise, we made something for you, Marin announced, practically vibrating with excitement. For me? They parted to reveal a mannequin wearing a soft, flowing outfit, delicate layers of pale lavender and cream, paired with a subtle ribbon hairpiece that shimmered when the light hit it. The design was feminine, yes, but not exaggerated. Gentle, graceful, almost familiar. This is your look for the showcase, Liana said, eyes sparkling. My look. My voice shook. I can't wear that on stage. Everyone will be watching. Exactly, Nira said. Everyone should see you. The real you.
Panic bubbled in my chest.
I stepped back. My throat tightened. I'm not ready for that, I whispered. I'm not who you think I am. Liana stepped closer, slowly, carefully, like approaching a frightened animal. Elise, she said softly, we made this because of how you've been growing. Because we've seen you find confidence. Because you look more at home each day. This outfit is you. I shook my head. You're wrong. I'm not a girl. The words felt sharp in my mouth. Like they didn't belong there. Like they hurt more than they clarified. Liana's face softened, but her eyes didn't leave mine. Elise, are you sure? My breath caught. Her question lingered in the air, gentle, but charged with meaning. Was I sure? I wanted to be. For so long, I clung to the identity I had been assigned at birth like a shield. But living as Elise had peeled back layers I didn't know existed. Layers of softness, of comfort, of recognition. I stood silently as the girls watched me, not with pressure, but with hope. Slowly, my gaze drifted back to the outfit. The lavender fabric, the delicate ribbon, the subtle shape that matched the person I had been seeing in the mirror for weeks now. A quiet truth whispered inside me, a truth I had ignored for too long. I don't know who I am, I murmured. The words cracked. A confession. A fracture.
A release.
Liana stepped closer and gently took my hands in hers. Then let this be part of finding out, she whispered. Her touch was warm,
steady, safe.
And something inside me softened, melted, broke open. I nodded slowly, trembling. Okay, I'll try. Her eyes lit up, and the room buzzed with excitement again. Marin rushed to grab brushes and pins. Nira adjusted the lighting, and Liana guided me to a seat in front of the mirror. As they began preparing me, touching up my hair, adjusting the ribbon, applying the lightest hint of makeup, something changed. I watched the transformation slowly reveal itself in the mirror. And this time, instead of flinching, or doubting, or questioning, I leaned closer, breath catching in my throat, because the reflection staring back, the gentle eyes, the soft features, the subtle glow. She didn't look like a stranger. She didn't look like a costume. She looked like someone I had always been but never allowed myself to see. Elise, Liana whispered behind me, seeing the realization in my eyes. You're glowing. My chest tightened. My eyes blurred, because for the first time I saw it too. The truth wasn't something distant or theoretical anymore. It was right there, in the mirror, in me, living, breathing, emerging. The showcase wasn't just a school event. It was the doorway to something I had feared, avoided, denied, but could no longer ignore. I whispered, voice trembling but honest. I think she's been here all along. Liana smiled, her reflection meeting mine. Then let's show everyone. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there in my dorm bed, staring at the ceiling while the soft hum of the heater whispered through the room. Everything Aunt Layla had planned, everything she had believed, everything I had been forced to live for the past months, it all tangled inside me like a storm of threads pulling in opposite directions. I kept seeing her face, warm, soft, knowing, every time I closed my eyes. You'll understand someday, she had said. But what was I supposed to understand? That the year had turned me into someone unrecognizable? That her vision of me was more real than the boy I used to be? That maybe, just maybe, she had known something I didn't? Or was this all just a cruel, emotionally manipulative experiment, one she believed was righteous? The questions wouldn't stop. At dawn, when the light slipped pale and watery across my cheeks, I finally got up. The mirror across the room caught my reflection before I even looked directly. The girl staring back wasn't the same timid student who'd arrived at the academy months ago. Her hair was longer, softer. Her face had a gentler shape for my skincare routine. Her posture, straight, graceful, was not something I had practiced consciously. Her uniform skirt fell naturally against her hips, as if it had belonged there forever. I swallowed hard. This is me. This is who I look like now. Suddenly, the idea of changing back, of wiping this version of me away, felt like breaking something fragile and precious. I hated that thought. I hated how it made my chest tighten. I hated how it made me feel like I was betraying the boy I used to be. But I also hated how desperate and fearful the boy inside me felt.
Lost.
Invisible. Fading. I touched the mirror, fingertips brushing the cool glass, trying to find myself inside that reflection. I'm still here, I whispered. But the girl in the mirror whispered back. Are you? Classes that day were a blur. Everyone greeted me like normal. A few girls complimented my hair ribbon, which only twisted the knife of confusion a little deeper. The teachers spoke to me in the warm, familiar way they always did. Even the hallways felt different, as though they were no longer corridors I walked through, but spaces that recognized me. People didn't see a boy in a skirt. They didn't see something forced or artificial. They saw a girl. They saw me. It was terrifying how normal it had become. Between classes, Hannah walked beside me, linking arms like always. The gesture used to make me stiffen, but not anymore. It felt safe. Comforting.
Real.
You okay today? She asked, giving me a look that was too perceptive for comfort. Just tired, I said. She tilted her head. You're lying. I laughed weakly. Maybe a little. She tugged my arm gently. Come with me after school. I want to show you something. When classes ended, she led me to the old greenhouse behind the academy, an abandoned structure sealed years ago. Dust clung to the cracked glass panels, but inside, the late afternoon sun filtered through in golden strips. What is this place? I asked softly. My hiding spot, she said with a smile. When I need to be myself. I blinked. What do you mean? She sat on a broken stone bench. You think you're the only one who feels out of place here? The academy pushes everyone into a perfect shape. You just reacted differently. I stood there quietly, unsure if she was hinting at what she suspected about me. You're changing, she said gently. Not just the clothes, not just the routine. You are changing, and I think it scares you. It does. Why? Because I didn't know who I was anymore. Because part of me didn't want to let go of this version of myself. Because another part of me feared how real it had become. But I couldn't say that. Not out loud. So I whispered, I don't know. Hannah reached out and held my hands lightly. You don't have to be sure right now. But you do need to stop fighting yourself so violently. I swallowed hard. My voice was barely a breath. What if I don't recognize myself at the end of this?
She squeezed my hands.
Maybe that's the point. Her words hit me like a quiet earthquake, soft but world-shaking. I sat beside her. Do you think my aunt did the right thing? Hannah took a long moment before answering. I think your aunt loved you more than you realize. And sometimes love sees something we don't see yet. I felt tears sting my eyes, but I blinked them away. Hannah brushed a strand of hair from my cheek, her fingers warm and steady. You don't have to choose today. But when the moment comes, you won't be the same person who first walked onto campus. She was right, and I hated how deeply I knew she was right. Because the truth was forming inside me, slowly, painfully, inevitably. There was something here I couldn't deny anymore. Something about the softness of my voice, the comfort of my clothes, the way my name sounded when others said it, the way my emotions flowed more freely, the way the mirror reflected a version of me that felt realer than the boy I remembered being. Was this who Aunt Layla saw in me? Was this who I had always been? My heart raced, terrified of the answer. Hannah leaned her head on my shoulder. You're not alone, she whispered. For the first time, I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, I didn't want to return to the person I was before. Not completely. Not ever. And that truth scared me more than anything else. The weeks passed in a blur of lessons, laughter, quiet moments, and subtle revelations. Every day, I caught glimpses of the person I had been avoiding all my life, and every night, I wrestled with the truth. That person wasn't a stranger. She was me. By the time spring fully bloomed, the cherry trees lining Ravensbridge Academy were heavy with petals that drifted lazily to the ground. The air smelled sweet, soft, and full of possibility. I stood beneath them one afternoon, Liana beside me, watching the petals spin around our feet like pink snow. You've changed, she said softly. I laughed quietly, a sound I barely recognized, light, unburdened. I know. No, she said, shaking her head. Not just the outside. Elise, you've changed inside. You're free. And it suits you. Her words made my chest tighten.
Free.
That word had haunted me since Aunt Helena's letter first arrived. And now, I felt it. In every heartbeat, in every step, in every glance I gave the mirror where Elise stared back at me. I had finally stopped trying to separate him from her.
I didn't want to.
The boy I once was, the one who hid behind long sleeves and awkward jokes, had always existed to protect something precious. But Elise wasn't just a mask or a role. She was the truth. The memory of my aunt's voice whispered in my mind. I know who you are. You just need to see it yourself. And now I did. The final moment came on the last day of the school year, at the Expression Showcase, the same event where my awakening had begun. I stood on stage, dressed in a soft lavender ensemble the Style Club had chosen, the ribbon tied neatly in my hair. The lights were bright, the audience watching, but I didn't flinch. I didn't hesitate. Because I knew who I was. I looked out into the crowd, my heart thudding, and I didn't see judgment. I didn't see fear. I saw recognition, quiet, warm recognition of someone finally stepping fully into herself. I breathed in deeply. I am Elise, I whispered, barely above a breath. The words rolled off my tongue with a weightless clarity I had never known. My chest expanded, my shoulders relaxed, and a wave of warmth washed over me, filling spaces I didn't know were empty. For the first time in my life, I felt entirely seen. After the applause, after the smiles and congratulations, I walked off stage and into the courtyard. The cherry petals swirled around me like confetti. Liana ran up and hugged me, holding me steady as the wind caught strands of my hair. You did it, she whispered. No, I said softly, eyes misted with tears. We did it. Aunt Helena made me see, made me find myself. The truth settled like sunlight on my shoulders. I was no longer afraid. I was no longer pretending. I was not living someone else's expectation. I was living my own reality. The one Aunt Helena had always believed in. The one I had finally allowed myself to embrace. That night, I stood in front of the mirror in my aunt's old house once more. Elise's face stared back at me, fully formed, fully alive. The skirt swayed gently as I shifted my weight. The ribbon caught the light, just right. And in that reflection, I saw everything. The girl my aunt saw, the person I had feared, the self I had fought to deny. And I smiled. "Thank you, Aunt Helena," I whispered, "for believing in me when I couldn't." I didn't need to take the skirt off anymore. I didn't need to erase the transformation. It was real. It was permanent. It was me. The journey had been mysterious, challenging, and at times terrifying, but it had brought me to a truth I could finally hold, fully and without apology. I took a deep breath, turning from the mirror to the empty house, and felt a calm joy settle inside me. Elise wasn't just a name. She wasn't just a uniform. She was freedom. And as I closed my eyes, I realized I had been living her all along, just waiting for the courage to see it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our channel.